Gentlemen, time has expired. With that, we go to the gentleman from Illinois. Mr. Foster is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Secretary, was there anything you wanted to add about the oil cap policy that you didn't have a chance during the previous round of questioning?
Thank you. Well, what I wanted to say is that an objective is to keep the oil market well supplied, so neither Americans nor residents of many countries around the globe, including the poorest, are faced with spiking energy prices. And we are considering additional sanctions on Soviet ships now that Russia's taken this approach, but we want to evaluate what the potential impact could be on global oil markets, and we're discussing that in an interagency basis.
I'd also like to congratulate the administration on having made a significant amount of money with the SPR, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, whereby you're sort of monetizing your ability to have to store oil, to be able to sell at a high price and refill at a low price and make the taxpayer a whole pile of money. So to the extent that you were at the table there, good work. I'd also like to second my congratulations on your successful pilot program for the IRS free file system, and believe it should be an option available to taxpayers at all income levels. I've been introducing legislation in this area for more than a decade, and so it's really nice to see it come to pass. And as a next step, in February, I reintroduced the Autofill Act, which would allow individuals who choose to download tax forms that are automatically populated with information that the IRS already collects from employers, from the Social Security information, from financial institutions. You know, our tax code's complicated enough, and we shouldn't force people to keep around shoeboxes full of all these stubs they get, and they have to use them for their tax forms. And this would be a common sense solution available in most countries, to just have the government help you fill out the part of the forms with information they already have. So please consider that as a next step in strengthening this very successful pilot program. Okay, now on April 24th, President Biden signed the Repo Act, which gives the administration authority to seize Russian assets and use them for the benefit of Ukraine's war effort and their eventual reconstruction. Last month, the G7 agreed in principle to use the interest earned on frozen Russian assets to back a $50 billion loan for Ukraine. And following that meeting, you said that the logistics of such a loan were complicated and that you could not provide a timeline for getting that money to Ukraine. And since you'd made those comments a few weeks ago, has progress been made to get the money to Ukraine, and what challenges are you running into from our G7 allies? Is there anything that Congress can do to speed this process along?
Well, thank you for that. The leaders in the G7 asked that we be ready by the end of the year to transfer $50 million, so $1 billion. So we're working very closely now. The leaders have endorsed this general concept to work out the details. There are steps that the European Union needs to take to make sure that the windfall revenues will remain available to service these debts. We're discussing the allocation of the loan among G7 members. These are very intense discussions taking place right now.
Anything we can do to provide additional leverage in those negotiations, we're, I think, on a bipartisan basis, willing to do.
Honestly, this is a collaboration. The G7 is working together constructively. There are some complex issues here, but we're working constructively to get this done.
That the $50 billion loan could be the first of several, that this is the first tranche, and if necessary, there could be more behind it. So how far can this strategy go, and on what timescale to support Ukraine? You know, does this, what fraction of the amount of money you'd get by simply seizing and liquidating the Russian assets?
Well, we think all options should remain on the table, and the Repo Act.
But if you have to stick to this business with the loans and using the interest income, what are the limits to that?
We believe that a global approach, a strategy where the G7, the European Union act jointly together is effective and appropriate. So we're looking for strategies that other countries can also endorse. And the issue of simply seizing assets, whereas we have been very clear, we believe there's a sound legal basis to do so in the United States and elsewhere. This has been something of a bone of contention. And so the approach that the G7 leaders have endorsed is an alternative which doesn't raise all of the same issues as seizing the assets would, and it lets us act together as a coalition.
Oh, thank you, and keep at it.